Okay, so you want a cat, and you've heard the pitch 1,000 times. Low maintenance, independent, doesn't need walks, uses a box instead of a yard, perfect for an apartment, perfect for someone busy, perfect for someone who wants the love of a pet without the workload of a dog. You've probably heard someone say it directly. Cats are just easier. Here's the problem. Almost none of that is about money. It's about time. And the moment you stop measuring a cat in hours and start measuring it in dollars, the entire low-maintenance reputation falls apart. For a reason that is honestly kind of brilliant and kind of horrifying at the same time. Cats hide illness. It's a survival instinct wired into them millions of years before anyone had a couch for them to sleep on. In the wild, a sick animal that shows weakness gets targeted. So a cat's whole biology is built to mask pain, to act completely normal right up until it can't anymore. Which means the easy pet is quietly the one most likely to blindside you with a serious bill. Because by the time you notice something's wrong, something has usually been wrong for a while. So let's actually do it. Let's price a cat properly. From the day it walks in the door to the day 15 or 20 years from now, you say goodbye. And we're going to keep a running total on screen the entire time, because the ending on this one is sneakier than you'd think. Let's start at zero. Let's start with buying the cat, because just like a dog, there isn't one type of cat purchase. There are several, and the range is enormous. At the bottom, adoption. A shelter or rescue cat runs somewhere between $0 and $150, and often that fee already includes the spay or neuter, the first vaccines, and a microchip. Exactly the same bargain hiding in plain sight that we saw with dogs. Above that, a breeder cat, a specific pedigree like a Maine Coon or a Bengal, can run $800 to $2,000, and for a rare or show-quality line, several thousand more. And then there's the quiet category almost nobody accounts for, the cat that finds you. A stray shows up on your porch, a kitten gets handed to you by a neighbor, and the purchase price is $0, but you're about to learn, exactly like with the free horse, that the entrance fee was never the real number. And there's a decision buried inside that choice that moves the number more than the price tag does, kitten or adult. Almost everyone wants the kitten. The kitten is the whole fantasy, tiny, ridiculous, falling over its own feet. But a kitten is, financially, the most expensive version of a cat you can possibly choose. A kitten needs a full series of vaccines spaced weeks apart, not one visit, but 3 or 4. It needs to be spayed or neutered, a real surgery you're paying for. It needs deworming, often more than once. It is small enough to injure itself doing something stupid, and statistically, kittens have more emergency visits than adult cats for exactly that reason. Swallowed string, a bad fall, a squeezed into space it couldn't get out of. And it will destroy things, because a kitten's job description is climbing whatever is nearest, whether that's a curtain, a screen door, or the back of your couch. An adult shelter cat, by contrast, usually arrives already fixed, already vaccinated, already microchipped, past the destructive phase, and, crucially, with a known personality and a known health history. The shelter has often had it long enough to tell you whether it's healthy, whether it's friendly, whether it uses a box reliably. You are, in a very real sense, buying information along with the animal. And information is the single most valuable thing in this entire equation, because every surprise in cat ownership is expensive. The kitten costs more up front, costs more in the first year, and tells you less about what you're getting. The adult cat is cheaper, safer, and better documented. Almost everybody picks the kitten anyway, which is the first sign that none of this was ever really a financial decision. Let's be reasonable. Let's say you adopt a healthy adult cat from a shelter for $75. Add it to the total, $75. If that feels almost too cheap to worry about, hold that feeling, because we're about to spend more on furniture for this cat than you spent on the cat. Because now you have a cat, and even though it needs less gear than a dog, it needs specific gear, and some of it is stranger and pricier than people expect. You need a litter box, $10 to $30, and litter itself, which is not a one-time cost. It's a recurring $20 to $40 a month for the rest of the cat's life. You need food and water bowls, a carrier for vet trips, a scratching post, which is not optional, because a cat without one will scratch your furniture instead, and a decent scratching post or cat tree runs $50 to $200. You need toys, a bed it will probably ignore in favor of your laundry basket, grooming tools, and if you want to protect your furniture and your sanity, possibly a second scratching post, because cats are surprisingly particular about where they're willing to use the first one. Realistically, the starter setup runs $150 to $400. Let's say $200. Add it to the total. We're at $275, and the cat has been home for exactly 1 day. And here's where the first myth starts to crack. People assume the first-year cost of a cat is dramatically lower than a dog's. It's lower, but not by as much as you'd think. In the first year, a cat needs its full vaccine series if it hasn't had one, A spay or neuter, if it wasn't done already, running $200 to $500, deworming, and its first wellness exam. If you got the cat from a breeder instead of a shelter, all of those medical costs land directly on you, exactly the same trap as the dog. Between the medical work, the setup, and food, the honest first-year number for a cat lands somewhere between $1,000 and $2,200 for a healthy cat where nothing goes wrong. Let's put that at $1,400 for medical and food combined. Add it to the total. We're now at just under $1,700, and your cat is 1 year old. Now here's where the real business model of a cat kicks in, and it's genuinely different from a dog's. A cat's monthly burn rate is lower, but it never really goes away because unlike a dog, you don't get days off from the litter box. Let's break down the monthly cost. Food first. A cat eats far less than a dog, and decent food runs $20 to $50 a month, call it $400 a year. Litter is the cost people never budget for correctly because it's not a purchase, it's a subscription with no cancel button. $20 to $40 a month, every month, for the entire life of the cat comes out to roughly $300 a year, and if you have multiple cats, that number multiplies directly. Then there's routine vet care. Even a healthy indoor cat needs an annual checkup and core vaccines, running $200 to $350 a year. Then flea and heartworm prevention, another $100 to $200 a year, non-negotiable even for a cat that never goes outside, because fleas ride in on your shoes and your other pets. Then the miscellaneous river, toys, replacement scratching posts, occasional grooming for long-haired breeds, and boarding or a pet sitter when you travel, another $200 to $500 a year. Stack all of that together, and the ongoing cost of a healthy cat in a normal year lands somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000, meaningfully less than a dog's $1,500 to $3,000. This is the part of the reputation that's actually true. Let's use a middle number, $1,400 a year. Now here's the twist that changes everything. Cats live a long time. An indoor cat commonly lives 15 to 20 years, genuinely longer than most dogs. So run the math across 14 more years at $1,400 a year. That's $19,600. Add it to the total. We've just crossed $21,000. Read that number again. $21,000 on a cat you may have paid $75 for. And we haven't even gotten to the part that actually breaks the low-maintenance myth wide open. Because remember what we said at the beginning, cats hide illness. And that single evolutionary trait is the reason the cheap, easy pet reputation collapses the moment anything goes wrong. With a dog, you usually see the warning signs: a limp, a whimper, a change in energy that's obvious because dogs are expressive, dramatic, impossible to ignore. A cat evolved to do the exact opposite. A cat with a broken tooth will keep eating like nothing happened. A cat in kidney failure will keep grooming itself, keep looking dignified, keep acting like a cat, right up until it collapses. Veterinarians have a name for this problem. By the time an owner notices something is wrong with a cat, the condition has often been developing for weeks or months, which means it's usually more advanced and more expensive to treat than it would have been in a dog showing the same disease. And cats have a very specific, very common medical trap that dogs mostly don't: urinary blockages, especially in male cats. A cat's urinary tract can become blocked by crystals or inflammation, and it is a genuine emergency. Because a blocked cat cannot urinate at all, and without treatment, it can be fatal within 2 to 3 days. Here's the cruel part. The early signs, straining in the litter box, look almost identical to constipation, so owners frequently miss it or misread it, because the cat is, true to form, acting almost completely normal otherwise. Emergency treatment for a blockage runs $1,000 to $3,000, and if it becomes a repeat problem, some cats need a specific surgery that can run $3,000 to $5,000. Then there's kidney disease, which is almost absurdly common in older cats, affecting a large share of cats over the age of 10. It's slow, it's quiet, and cats are exceptionally good at masking the early stages. By the time you notice increased thirst or weight loss, the disease is often well established. Managing it means special prescription food, regular blood work, and sometimes subcutaneous fluids you learn to administer at home, and it can run $50 to $200 a month for the rest of the cat's life once diagnosed. Then there's hyperthyroidism, another quiet, common older cat disease, treatable but requiring ongoing medication or a more expensive one-time radioactive iodine treatment that can run $1,500 to $2,500. And it isn't just the big diagnoses. Dental disease is quietly one of the most common and most underestimated costs in cat ownership, because a cat with a genuinely painful mouth, an abscessed tooth, inflamed gums, will still eat, still purr, still climb into your lap like nothing is wrong, because stopping eating would be an even bigger, more dangerous signal to a predator that it's vulnerable. Owners routinely don't find out until a vet opens the cat's mouth for something unrelated and finds a mouth full of problems that had clearly been building for a long time. A single dental procedure with extractions can run well over $1,000, and by the time it happens, it's rarely just one visit, it's the first of several. This is the part worth sitting with, because it's not a fluke, it's the whole design of the animal. Every single one of these conditions follows the identical pattern. The cat looks fine. The cat acts fine. The cat is, by every visible measure, being a completely normal cat, right up until a blood test, an X-ray, or a genuine emergency reveals that it hasn't been fine for weeks or months. A dog practically narrates its own decline to you. A cat edits the whole story down to a single dramatic reveal at the very end, and you're the one who gets billed for having missed the first 9 chapters. None of these show up as a dramatic accident, the way a dog's swallowed sock or torn ligament might. They show up as a slow fade that the cat is specifically, biologically engineered to hide from you until the last possible moment, which means the final years of a cat's life carry a real financial cliff, just like a dog's, except it arrives with almost no warning at all. Let's be honest about it. Across the back half of a cat's life, between one urinary emergency and several years of managing a chronic condition like kidney disease, it's completely normal to spend $2,000 to $6,000 in additional costs that nobody priced in on day one. Let's use a conservative $3,000. Add it to the total. We are now at roughly $24,000 for a cat that cost $75 to adopt and, by reputation, was supposed to be the easy one. And before we get to how people actually live with that number, there's a second layer of cost here too, the layer that depends on you, not the cat. Because a lot of the cats are cheap math secretly assumes exactly one cat staying strictly indoors for its entire life, and the moment any of that changes, the number moves with it. Start with the obvious one. Most cat owners don't stop at 1. The second cat doesn't need its own litter box in theory, but in practice, vets recommend 1 box per cat plus 1 extra, specifically because cats can be territorial about where they go, and a shortage of boxes is one of the most common causes of a cat suddenly refusing to use one at all. 2 cats often means 3 litter boxes, double the litter budget, and double the food. It doesn't double the vet visits exactly, but it gets close, because now you're managing 2 separate medical histories, 2 sets of vaccines, and the statistical chance that at least one of them develops something expensive climbs right along with the head count. Then there's the breed question, which matters here just as much as it did for dogs. A random short-hair mixed-breed cat is, genetically, a bit of a mutt, and mutts tend to dodge the worst inherited problems. But popular pedigree breeds carry specific, well-documented risks. Certain long-haired breeds are prone to a serious heart condition that can develop silently and go undetected until it's advanced. Certain flat-faced breeds struggle to breathe and groom themselves properly, needing more frequent vet care their whole lives. The breeder cat that cost you $2,000 up front can carry a genetic ticking clock that the shelter mutt simply doesn't have. The exact same trap we saw with dogs, dressed up in a different coat. Then there's the fact that indoor-outdoor cats, the ones people let roam because that's what cats do, carry a completely different cost profile than strictly indoor cats. Outdoor access means a shorter average lifespan, but it also means a much higher chance of the expensive stuff. Fight wounds that abscess and need draining, parasites picked up from other animals, and the occasional emergency from getting hit by a car or attacked by a dog. An indoor-only cat trades some freedom for a genuinely lower lifetime vet bill, which is part of why vets so consistently recommend keeping cats inside. Then there's your home. And this is the cost category cat owners consistently underestimate the most, because it doesn't arrive as a bill from a vet, it arrives as things in your house quietly becoming worse. Cats scratch. Not out of spite, but because it's how they maintain their claws and mark territory, and they will do it whether or not you've provided an alternative. Give a cat a good scratching post, and most of that energy goes there. Get it wrong, or get a cat that decides your sofa arm is superior, and you will watch a piece of furniture worth several hundred or several $1,000s gradually become unusable. Nobody puts replace the couch in the pet budget, and yet across 15 to 20 years, a lot of cat owners quietly do exactly that. Worse, and this is the one that genuinely costs people real money, litter box problems. A cat that stops using its box, whether from a urinary issue, stress, a territorial dispute with another cat, or a box it has simply decided is unacceptable, doesn't just create an unpleasant afternoon. Cat urine soaks into carpet, into padding, and sometimes into the subfloor underneath, and once it's there, ordinary cleaning does not remove it. The full fix can mean replacing carpet and padding in a room, and in bad cases, sealing or replacing subfloor, which is a genuine 4-figure home repair caused by an animal that weighs 9 pounds. This is also, not coincidentally, one of the most common reasons cats end up back at shelters. And if you rent, a cat is not free to house, exactly like a dog. Most landlords who allow pets charge a pet deposit, often $200 to $500, and increasingly a monthly pet rent of $25 to $50 charged every month for an animal that spends most of its life asleep on a windowsill. Across a decade of renting, that's thousands of dollars in additional rent for a pet whose entire reputation is that it doesn't take up space. Then there's travel, and cats come with a specific trap here. Because of the low-maintenance reputation, people genuinely believe a cat can be left alone for a long weekend with a big bowl of food. And vets will tell you plainly that this is a bad idea, because a cat can develop a serious problem in 48 hours and there's nobody there to notice, and because a single tipped water bowl or a blocked cat turns into an emergency fast. So you're paying a sitter, typically $20 to $40 per visit, for every trip you take for 2 decades. It's less than boarding a dog. It is emphatically not zero, and almost nobody counts it. Now, there's one tool that's supposed to soften the blow of all of this, and it's worth being honest about, because it's the closest thing cat ownership has to a business decision: pet insurance. Premiums for a cat typically run $15 to $40 a month, cheaper than a dog's because cats are, on average, smaller and less injury-prone. And the same uncomfortable math applies here as it does everywhere else. On average, across all cats, the insurance company comes out ahead because that's how the business survives. But insurance was never built for the average cat. It's built for the one that blocks at 2 in the morning, or the one that needs years of kidney management nobody saw coming. For a lot of owners, the real value isn't winning the bet. It's making sure that when the emergency call comes, the decision about your cat's life isn't also, simultaneously, a decision about your bank account. Whether you buy the policy or just quietly build your own emergency fund, the lesson is the same one we keep landing on. With a cat, the big bill isn't a maybe, it's a when. It's simply better disguised, arriving later and with less warning than it would for almost any other pet. And this is where the two very different versions of cat ownership reveal themselves, because that $24,000 is an average, and almost nobody actually lives at the average. In the optimistic scenario, you got lucky. You adopted a healthy short-hair mixed-breed cat, the ones that tend to dodge the worst genetic problems that some pedigree breeds carry. It stays indoors its whole life, which alone adds years to its lifespan and avoids the injuries and infections that outdoor cats pick up constantly. It never develops kidney disease or a urinary blockage, and it passes peacefully in old age without a long, expensive decline. In that best case, you might come in under $15,000 for the whole 18 years. That's the dream, and a huge number of cat owners genuinely get it, because cats are, on balance, more likely than dogs to sail through their whole life without a single dramatic incident. In the realistic scenario, ordinary things go wrong, none of them exotic. The cat has one urinary scare in its middle years that means an emergency vet visit and a diet change. It develops kidney disease in its final few years, meaning prescription food and monitoring for a while. It needs a dental cleaning or two, which under anesthesia can run $400 to $800, more if teeth need to be pulled. Nothing dramatic, just the normal texture of a real cat's real life. And that cat quietly costs you $30,000 or more across its lifetime, arriving the same way it always does, not as one shocking event, but as 18 years of small drips that only look enormous once you add them all up at the end. And if you want proof that people systematically get this number wrong, you don't need a spreadsheet. You need to look at what happens to the cats. Every year, millions of cats enter shelters in the United States, and when shelters and welfare organizations survey owners about why they surrendered an animal, the same answers surface again and again: cost, housing, and a medical problem the owner couldn't afford to treat. Not cruelty, not people who stopped caring. Overwhelmingly, ordinary people who loved their cat and ran into a number they hadn't planned for. Sit with what that means, because it's the whole thesis of this video stated in the bluntest possible terms. The single most common reason a cat loses its home is that the economics of owning it were never explained honestly to the person who took it in. They were told the opposite. They were told it was the easy pet, the cheap pet, the one that basically takes care of itself. And when that turned out not to be true, when the blockage happened at 2 in the morning, or the landlord raised the pet rent, or the kidney diagnosis arrived with a monthly price tag attached, the gap between the story and the reality had to be absorbed somewhere. That's the real cost of the low-maintenance myth. It isn't that people overspend, it's that people underprepare, and then an animal pays for it, which is exactly why running these numbers honestly, before the cat comes home rather than after, is not a cynical exercise. It is, genuinely, the single kindest thing a prospective owner can do. So, let's step back and run the cold financial version, the way the finance channels would. What's the return? You spent $20,000+, give or take. Resale value, 0. You're not selling your cat. Income, 0, unless you're a professional breeder, which is a tiny, difficult niche most cat owners have nothing to do with. Appreciation, negative. An older cat is not worth more. It's worth more in vet visits. It generates no income, offsets no taxes, cannot be productive in any financial sense at all. Run the spreadsheet, and a cat, the supposedly cheap, low-maintenance pet, is still, unmistakably, a guaranteed multi-thousand-dollar loss with a nasty habit of hiding its worst bills until the last possible moment. And here's the thing, people still get cats specifically because they seem manageable, specifically because the myth of the low-effort pet is appealing, and then they fall in love anyway, the exact same way dog owners do, and they do it again in a heartbeat. Because what the spreadsheet can't price is the specific, quiet company of an animal that chooses to be near you without ever needing anything performative from you. No walks demanded at 6 a.m., no leash, no training class, just a small warm weight that appears on your lap the moment you sit still, purring for reasons that are entirely its own. You bought a creature that will sit in the exact patch of sunlight on your floor for 4 hours and somehow make that look like the most important job in the world. You bought the specific sound of a cat finding you in an empty house and deciding, silently, that this is where it wants to be. None of that shows up on a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet only sees the $24,000 leaving your account, one quiet withdrawal at a time. It cannot see the thing that actually made it worth it. So here's the real answer to the economics of owning a cat. It's not free. It's not even close to the cheap pet reputation everyone gives it, mostly because of what it hides so well for so long. It will cost you $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 over its life, money you will never see again. And if you've ever had one choose you, actually choose to sit near you when it had the entire house to itself, you know you'd pay every penny of it twice, because every penny of it was never about getting something back. It was only ever about a friend for life. And that, quiet as it is still the best money you will ever spend.